Your immune system is this incredible, microscopic army, constantly on patrol inside your body, hunting down and destroying invaders like bacteria and viruses. It really is the ultimate protector, the guardian of your health. But what happens when that guardian gets confused? And that's exactly what we're going to dive into.
What happens when this finely tuned defense system just gets its signals crossed? I mean, imagine that. The soldiers sworn to protect the homeland suddenly turn their weapons inward, and they launch a full-scale attack against the very cells they're supposed to defend. This is the central and, frankly, devastating question behind autoimmunity.
Early scientists were so freaked out by this idea of self-attack that they gave it this really dramatic name, horror autotoxicus, which literally means the horror of self-toxicity. The scientist Paul Ehrlich came up with this to describe a state where the body's own immune cells start attacking its own tissues. Yeah, it's literally a civil war being fought at the cellular level.
So how does your body normally stop this from happening? How does it prevent this kind of catastrophic friendly fire? Well, it all comes down to a fundamental security protocol, the ability to tell the difference between self and non-self. Your immune system is brilliant at spotting foreign invaders, but its most critical job is knowing what not to attack.
Well, this prime directive has a name: immunological tolerance. You can think of it as the immune system's absolute golden rule. Know yourself and do not harm yourself. It's not a passive thing either. It's an active, ongoing process that makes sure your immune cells ignore all your healthy bits while staying on high alert for actual threats.
So this tolerance thing, it's set up through this really cool two-stage security system, which this slide lays out perfectly. Over on the left, you've got the academy. This is what we call central tolerance, where the new recruits go through their basic training. And on the right, you have the field. That's peripheral tolerance, and it provides these crucial backup plans for any rogue agents that might slip through the initial screening.
Okay, so let's dive into that first part, the academy. This is basically boot camp for our immune cells. It all happens in what are called the central lymphoid organs. For T cells, that's the thymus, and for B cells, it's the bone marrow. This is where every new recruit is put through some seriously rigorous tests before they're ever allowed out into your body.
And for T cells, this training in the thymus is absolutely brutal. I mean, recruits are basically lined up and shown these molecular mugshots of the body's own cells. We call these self-antigens. Any T cell that shows even a flicker of aggression, any cell that tries to attack these self-snapshots, fails the test on the spot. And the penalty for failing? Elimination. They're ordered to self-destruct in a process called apoptosis. It is a zero-tolerance policy, no exceptions.
Now, B cells get a slightly different deal over in the bone marrow. If a B cell shows it's reactive to self, it actually gets one shot to fix its mistake. It can perform something called receptor editing. Basically, it rewires its own genes to create a new receptor that hopefully won't recognize self anymore. But if that trick doesn't work, well, they face the exact same fate as the T cells. They're eliminated.
Okay, but let's be real. No training academy is perfect, right? Inevitably, a few of these self-reactive troublemakers are going to slip through the cracks and get out into circulation. And that is exactly why the body has a whole second line of defense out in the tissues, a bunch of safety nets designed to find and neutralize these rogue agents before they do any real damage. So the first protocol, the first safety net, is called energy. And it's a really clever way to disarm a rogue T cell without actually killing it. See, for a T cell to launch an attack, it needs two signals. It has to recognize something, and it needs a separate go signal. Energy blocks that second signal. It's basically told, stand down. The cell isn't killed, but it's rendered completely useless, stuck on inactive leave for the rest of its life. The next protocol, though, is a lot more direct. If a self-reactive T cell somehow gets activated anyway, it can be ordered to self-destruct. Basically, a signal gets sent to the special death receptor on the cell's surface, and that triggers the self-destruct program we talked about earlier, apoptosis. It's a clean, efficient way to get rid of a clear and present danger. But it's not just about setting traps. The body also has an active police force, the regulatory T cells, or TREG cells. Seriously, think of these guys as the peacekeepers of the immune system. They patrol all over the body, and if they find a self-reactive T cell that's starting to cause trouble, they have the authority to shut it down right then and there. They're absolutely essential for maintaining law and order. So, just to recap, we have this incredible multi-layered system of checks and balances, right? You got the academy, the protocols out in the field, the peacekeepers, it's all there.
But what happens when all of this fails? This is the moment when protection breaks down and the internal civil war of autoimmunity begins.
So, how does it all go wrong? Well, tolerance can break down in a few key ways. First, you've got a classic case of mistaken identity. That's molecular mimicry, where an invader's ID card looks almost exactly like one of your own cells. Or an injury could expose hidden targets, top-secret proteins the immune system has never even seen before. You could also lose your peacekeepers. If your Treg cells get weak, the bad guys can run wild. Or you get friendly fire, where in the chaos of fighting a real infection, the attack just spreads to healthy tissue nearby.
Let's zoom in on that first one because it's fascinating. Molecular mimicry. A textbook example of this is acute rheumatic fever. So you get a strep throat infection and your immune system correctly mounts this big response to fight it. The problem is some of the proteins on the strep bacteria look almost identical to proteins in your heart valves. So the very same antibodies that you made to fight off your sore throat end up getting confused. They see the heart valves, think, hey, that looks like the enemy, and they start attacking. And the consequences of these breakdowns, they're just devastating. I mean, look at this. In autoimmune hemolytic anemia, your body is literally destroying its own red blood cells. In multiple sclerosis, the immune system attacks the protective coating on your nerve cells. With rheumatoid arthritis, it's the tissues inside your joints. Every single one of these diseases is just a different battle in the same internal war, defined only by which part of you is the target.
But here's the thing. Understanding all of this, how tolerance works and how it fails, that is the absolute key to fighting back. It opens up the possibility for therapies that could, maybe, retrain the immune system, bring back the peacekeepers, and finally call a truce. And it really leaves us with this huge and honestly hopeful question. As we keep unraveling this internal conflict, could we one day, actually broker a permanent peace treaty inside our own bodies?